Hey guys, it's Kate and I hope you're having a great day. I wanted to do an art journal page today, so I broke out some supplies. I've got some watercolor, some ink, some stamping ink, some stencils, and collage. So I grabbed one of my vintage Victoria magazines that I got at an estate sale, and I just took out a random ad text page and ripped it into pieces and covered my whole journal page. So I just wanted to start with that as a clean layer, and it's covered with a thin layer of acrylic medium, matte medium. And then I had found these really cute nautical I don't know. It was on one of the pages in the magazine. It's got a greetings at the, I'm thinking seashore, and it's got some sailboats and shells, and it's got this nice little quote here after dear friends and a couple of little postage stamps. Well, as I was paging through the magazine, there was this false graph advertisement, and it has a fish nugget, I guess, on a plate. And so I thought that would be kind of cute to put with the nautical stuff. So I'm going to put this on here as my focal point and interest areas. But in the meantime, I want to work on this background. So that's what we're going to do. So I grabbed a Paradise Teal and my vintage photo ink and a couple of stencils. Okay, so I had these stencils sitting here, but then I found this one that almost reminds me of ocean waves. And because I'm doing kind of a nautical thing here, I think I'm going to start with this. So I am going to put my stencil on my page, grab my ink pad, and start with this. So this is a really beautiful color. It's also a strong ink. So I'm going to start off pretty lightly and see what happens from there. And I'm just kind of going over, and it should blend pretty well because I've got some of that matte medium on the page, which kind of helps things blend a little bit better, I find. So we'll see how that works out. And I'm just going to rub this in well. Ooh, I like that. Okay. I'm going to keep this going. And I'm going to start, let's see, put it over some of my old marks so that it continues the pattern. And I'm just going to keep this going. And I think this will be a nice background for that other collage. I'm going to kind of quiet things down a bit with maybe a glaze layer or possibly some gesso, but we'll just kind of see what happens. All right. I like that a lot. Hope you can see it well on your screen. So I'm going to put my lid back on this ink. Put that aside without knocking everything over. And then I'm going to grab my brown, and this could almost be like a sandy shore or something. So I'm going to grab my dot stencil here, and I'm just going to offset it from the page a bit so that it's going to go over the edges. And I'm going to get a pretty decent load of ink on my blending tool. And I'm going to start rubbing it in. Bring this over here. And that way we can get a nice layer going on in the background. And I'll lift this up and kind of see, oh, I like that. Okay, let's come in from the side. And on this particular stencil, the dots start off large and get smaller. So, but I think that really goes nicely with kind of an ocean beach theme. That's nice. All right, I'm going to come in from the top now. I'm not really sure where I'm going to put everything yet, but this way I get some good pattern coverage on my page so I can make that decision. All right, we got ourselves a nice busy background. Okay, I took a little short break and I arranged how I think I might like this to go. So what I did was I cut off the edge of this plate and I kind of put it up here behind this Dear Friends to give it something a little dark to stand off of or out from. And I'm going to put these little postage stamps next to the little message here in the lower left. And I think I really like this composition. So what I'm going to do first is take these off. They're not glued down yet. I just had them set out. But what I think I'm going to do first is glue down these two pieces. And they're going to be a little bit more toward the background. So I'm just going to get these down onto my paper. And that way I can start in. I think I'm actually going to go in with some of this yellow and earthy tones that are in this DDD Praise watercolor palette. And I'm going to kind of use that as a bit of a background for my other focal points. And so I think that should look pretty nice, but I want some of that watercolor to come in on here too. And I may also add a little bit of gesso, but we'll see. All right. I think that looks pretty good. Okay. So I'm going to wet this. I'm going to wet this and get it activated. And these watercolors, they advertise as metallic. I've never really found them to be very metallic, but I do love the color that's on them. You can see that here. It just has a really nice glazing effect. And I'm going to come in here and add some nice color to this page and make it nice and watery. And then I'm going to blot some off and kind of calm it down a bit with my paper towel here. And that way too, my paper doesn't get too waterlogged, especially my magazine piece. And what I might also do is come in with some blue as well and really just keep going with that sandy beach theme. And the nice thing about using some of this watercolor is that I can add a bit of a glaze, but you can still see the other colors and textures and everything coming through. So I'm just going to blot a little bit more, and I might even come in and just wet this bottom a bit. Just like that. And I'm just dipping in water to keep this palette wet. And this is not going to behave like watercolor paper. So just keep that in mind if you're working on a collage background, that it's going to really not spread like normal watercolor, but it will add a really nice glaze. So I've got some of this pink color here. And I'm trying to see on my palette where I might actually dip into a little bit of this purple and just kind of go through on some of that. And just let it kind of darken up a bit. And I'm just letting it flow. All right. It looks like I got some green or something on there that I guess must have touched the palette, so I'll have to be careful. I'm going to get just a little bit more of this purple, like that. And then I think I'm going to embrace the blue. So I'm going to get this really nice blue color, and I'm going to start adding some of that to my page. Again, blotting it up to make sure that it doesn't over wet anything. And then anywhere where it's a little too strong or doesn't really blend well, I'm just going to keep adding water and blotting it. Just like that. I'm going to add some more blue around here. Nice. Okay, now for a little bit of this gesso. And I'm going to put a little bit at a time right on my finger. And I'm going to kind of check this out and see what it looks like. So I'm going to kind of blot it right around here and just kind of calm down some of this area. And it's going to mix a little bit with that watercolor that I have down on the page, which I like just fine. And I'm just going to keep slowly blending away. I don't really need to worry about right there because it is going to really be covered up by my collage piece. And so I'm going to work on this just a little bit. I want to calm down that basket a bit and kind of go around the edge here just to soften up my area. And probably a little bit here at the bottom. Just to tone this down, I want to send it a little bit to the back. And I've got my baby wipe. I'm just going to blot a little bit to add some texture to the page, just like that. Nice. Okay, let me dip in a little bit more to this yellow and add that back in, mix it a bit with that gesso, and that looks pretty nice. And maybe add in a little bit up here to that gesso as well. And I've got my baby wipe. And I'm just going to get this nice and blended. How's that? Now, I think we might be cooking with fire. All right. I'm going to use my matte medium here with my brush since my paper is wet, but all of this will work together as basically a glue for my collage. And I'm just going to put some around some of these edges. Make sure that it has good contact. And dab this right down in here. Just like that. And I'm just going to paint right over it with my brush. And it'll help also blend in some of that background, some of that yellow that I've got. And it will just make it look more like part of the journal page. Just like that. All right. Now, for this one, I think I might put this right about there. So I'm going to grab a couple more little blobs of my matte medium and spread that right out. slap this on here. And I've still got some of my yellow blending, and that is just fine. Now my postage stamps. And I'm just going to stick them right on there. And I'm pressing down pretty good with my brush, getting that on there. Now I'm not using any of my tools, so the moisture is going to make it slightly wavy, but that's okay. Now I want to get a little bit of color around these that's a bit of a contrast so that we can make it stand out a bit more from the background. So I'm going to go, you know what, I'm going to go into this blue here because this actually matches really nicely with that little postcard. And so I'm going to line the edge a bit, just like this, and since it's watercolor it'll be able to reactivate, but I just want to get it around here first and see how I like it. And I like that a lot, actually. So now I'm going to dab my brush and just kind of blend this out a bit, just like this. And I can add a little bit more if I want. And I can also use my baby wipe to blot. But it almost adds like a little shadow, which I think looks nice. I'm going to add just a little more water to this. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm just dipping into my water and moistening around this palette. And going right around this border. I might even join these up a bit and come down here to the corner. What do we think so far? I love it. And let's just keep this going right up there. And I'm just being careful not to get right into my collage piece because I really want those to really stand out. Just like that. I think that is gorgeous. We add a little bit more out here. And I love this, what this blotting does. It just leaves that texture there, but it just adds that nice background. And I think this turned out really nice myself. Add a little bit more around here. just trying to kind of make it look more blotchy than brushed, if that makes sense. So you can get all that nice texture. Maybe I'll just strengthen a couple of these areas with the yellow, because we are, after all, on a sandy beach. What do we think? Well, I think we can call this done. This is a done journal page. One is happy as a result of one's own efforts. Happiness is no vague dream. Of that I now feel certain. And I think that is a wonderful quote for the day. So let me pick this up and give you a close-up. And it's still a little wet, but I love the texture on this and how it turned out. Collage makes such a big difference. And then, of course, we've got our little fish nugget, which I really enjoy. So I hope you enjoyed doing this project with me today and grabbed what other collage paper you have on hand and joined along in this project. And you can get some fun things when you match things up. Who knew I could use a dish to do a part of a background for a collage that's nautical, but here we are. So grab your supplies, grab your paper, and whatever you have on hand, and join me in these projects. And I hope you enjoyed this video today. Until next time, keep creating.